not even knowing about this licensing. And all of a sudden, 2 years in, enforcement comes down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Not. Hey, you got to shut this down, you know. And when these enforcement officers
No
came,
warning whatsoever.
not really sort of warning. They wrote a letter and they said, we need to inspect. Can you give us proof when this was set up? And I went, hey, look, I'm not lying here. I know when I've set it up. I know when the planning permission was accepted. And this is how I started it. But I didn't know about this Article 4 direction. So I really learned the hard way because it was just a new thing back in like 2013, 14.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what the hell have I done? I've put nice wood flooring, lovely, you know, wardrobes. I've put sinks in every single room because I was the builder on the job as well. I'd done the plumbing underneath. I made sure there was a sink so nobody was rushing in the morning to brush their teeth. The only thing they would be using is the toilets. And I think, what do I do now? So they come in and they just looked around. They were, oh, actually really nice. LED lights and stuff. And they said, look, you've done a really good job, but it's just not allowed right now. So I was like, what do I do? So this is when I was like, I want to give this house to someone in need, someone who really would appreciate this. And basically, here's a top tip for you guys. Just Google semi-independent homes and a list of providers will come up. People who have a management system and staff rotating. And these people, these companies need houses that they just don't want to buy. They just want to lease them off you or rent them off you. And then they can just provide care for the kids, really. So that's what I pivoted onto that sort of side.
Wow.
So while HMO became Article 4, I didn't sort of pursue that any longer. I just made these houses, got these extensions done, and just got this C3B planning agreed on them, and just started giving them away, like having
like housing associations or what like
they're
providers?
They're like providers, like independent.
Okay.
And they just take your house off you.
Nice.
You know, they
guaranteed
do.
rent.
Yes, guaranteed. And here's the thing, even Ofsted, you know, regulate these people. So you don't even need to really check the houses as much. I mean, I still do spot checks, but when you go to the houses, it's like Ofsted like rate you on a white bulb or a yellow bulb. Like they're very on it. So these houses are really look aftered well. They're on rent repairing leases in terms of they do all the building works. You know, I've gone past one of my houses and brand new fences have gone up and I'm like, someone's really, you know, doing the house up, etc. So I pivoted to that. And so once I got one or two providers, I ended up saying, do you want more? Or I found like agencies. I just knew how to look for it. And so I've actually got 3-4 different providers who are taking these houses. So it was like, hey, the private rented sector is getting really, really hard. How can I still give back to the community where, you know, I came from hard times, as we said earlier on. You know, I know what it feels like to have nothing. So how do we make an impact and change to these kids where they're living in a really nice house? And now, today, fast forward, I'm actually doing a few applications to partner up with another top care home to provide the care like firsthand. So I'll be providing the houses with all of the regulations, fire doors, etc. And he does the Ofsted side.
So when you're saying about the care homes, obviously you're bringing the property. Are you having the people to employ as well to help inside the care home?
So currently, no.
Okay.
I'm hands off. Right. You know, they just do all of that sort of side. The only thing I give them the keys over. But I am going into a space where as soon as a few of these plannings are agreed, I will be more involved into that sort of side of things. So you know
who's going to help then?
Yes. And like there's things like, you know, financial literacy that I know loads about that I want to provide a charity to help these kids indirectly, you know? So you get to a stage where you do all of these strategies, invest in certain places, and then the machine runs itself sort of thing. And then you just think, what, right, how do I give back? What's my legacy? What's my brand all about? You know, so.
That's amazing. That is amazing because we dived into HMO. So back onto that topic.
Yes.
How many HMOs do you have?
So I've already got about 4 HMOs in my portfolio.
Well, I thought it was going to be huge.
No.
I thought it's going to be, because you must have done way more buy, refurbish, refinance.
Yeah, I've done loads of them.
You must have concentrated on that compared to HMOs, was it?
Yeah,
what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a portfolio of buy-to-lets. I've got a portfolio of HMOs. I've got pubs with flats on top. I've bought blocks where there's single sort of, you know, it's one building, but it's got like 3 flats in there.
Yeah.
But that's what I like to do because I kind of pivot on what's kind of where my time is going to be allocated the least, but the most amount of value as well.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking HMOs are great, and it was great for me and served me at that time between that 2013, 2017 period. But then I pivoted more on, I'm getting similar money for giving these partners my keys. And then, hey, how do I get around the buying? Like, purchase prices are going up. Also, taxes are going up. Stamp duties are going up. So how do I buy this in one transaction but get more rentals out of this? So when you're getting multi-let units, you're thinking, right, now it's not just one place. I can count this as 4 because I got 4 different rents coming from here. But the buying of the solicitor was just all in one sort of transaction. And also multi-let sort of mortgages are not like as high as sort of HMOs. But I'm not saying HMOs are bad. It's just, you just got to get a really good deal and make them outside of an Article 4. So you're getting that value. Look, here's the things with HMOs. People who make HMOs are not the people who buy HMOs.
Right, okay.
You don't buy a HMO because you've lost on that appreciation. And then you go into an environment where you're going to a mortgage company and they're giving you 6-7% now. So the lending is high, there's more work to do, and you've paid through the roof for it as well. So a HMO is only viable if you're getting that 3 or 4 bedroom, you're creating more rooms, it's outside of that area, and then you get a new commercial valuation from this property, and you're going to see that uplift in value, and then you're going to be able to extract that money out of that value. And even like, chartered surveyors, when they come out, they a lot of the time down value HMOs, because how do you value a HMO? If it's not in an Article 4, it's very tough for them because what distinguishes this house to the house next door? Because that's a 3-bedroom house, this is a 5-bedroom HMO. But at any time, this could be converted into a 5-bedroom HMO.
Yeah.
So how do you value these two? How do you give this a 75,000 per, room sort of valuation? Because I've sat with, Rightmove, I've sat with these top lawyers and brokers and surveyors, and they're going, it's very, very hard. So it's something you have to be educated around heavily. You've got to know exactly what you're doing when you're getting into HMOs. It's not a simply put a partition up, a couple of alarms, and that's it. It's a lot more due diligence around it.
Especially with the council, they're very strict now, aren't they, with their compliance check? Especially
Absolutely.
like Woking Council, because I'm sorry. So with Woking Council, I saw the checklist. I thought it was very overwhelming. So I could just imagine what it's like, and it's not an Article 4 place. And I could imagine what it's like in an Article 4 place. And plus, you've got godfather rights, I assume. So it must be.
You call it godfather rights. We call it grandfather rights.
Oh, grandfather.
I don't know if that's a new buzzword.
There you go. Grandfather rights, godfather rights. It's all the same. It begins with a G. So back to your refurbish and refinance. So how many have you done? So what made you get into that? What was that? Your first protocol? Because you got your buy-to-lets, then your HMOs. Was that the third stage or?
So basically, the first things first is get your lottery tickets in, get your cash machines running. So it's just get your first house, buy it. I've got 2 jobs, that income, saved it up. And instead of use it for a car or a depreciating asset, I want you to put it into an asset that could give me passive income. Yeah. So it's one ticket, like this one house is starting to give me money now. So now I'm saving that house money, and my other earned income could be a business for some people where they've got a cash flow or rent to rent business. You save that money and get your next house. Why should I refurbish this sort of property right here? I've already bought it under market value. I might have put a lick of paint or a new kitchen in it, but why should I do a big extension? I mean, how much more is it going to give me if I've got a 2-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom house with a loft conversion? I might get from 1,200 to 1,500. It's not life-changing money. You got to know your numbers. That £300, what's that going to be? 3,600 at the end of the year? It's not going to do anything. My bank account won't even see that. So you think that extra 30, 40 grand spending on a loft conversion, put it into another property. Buy it, find another one for 200, put a 25% down, 150 loan, right? There's another lot of grand coming in. Them grands make the differences, grand there, 2 grand. What is that a year? 24 grand. Oh, 24 grand from my job now. Boom, 50 grand, buy the next one. And it got to a stage where house prices sort of left me. And I'm like, shit, what do I do now? Like, they're not 200, they're 250, 300. I need a bigger deposit. So what do I do? And that's when I looked at my existing portfolio of 3, 4 houses, and I'm going, right, I'm going to leave the bank now anyway. My granddad's not around. My dad needs a hand. I'm more flexible